the moment it's a bit of a tick box exercise, and it's because it's driven out of regulations that come from the FSB. And those regulations essentially ask questions like, is this present, is that present? If yes, show the evidence. But there's no qualitative aspect to that. So for most people, it's probably a tick box exercise. For the people implementing it and implementing it properly, there's an element of qualitative stuff. And that's the quality of what sits inside those documents one looks for. But we still have a bit of a way to go. In a sense, I'd prefer to almost throw compliance away and say, if you run a proper business, if you have the welfare of your customers, your clients at heart, if you go through a process of asking them questions to determine their needs, their objectives, their goals, and you assess it, not dissimilar to the way a doctor assesses you as a patient and asks you questions, and then put a financial prescription, if you want to call it that, in place and say how you can help a customer implement, then the compliance box will tick themselves, because then you're going through a process which really is laid down. And again, I have to get back to the point of it's unfortunate that we have to regulate to go through a process. Say you shall ask your customer certain questions to determine their needs. You would think when you're recommending something that's a natural, normal process, but unfortunately we have to regulate it because people have been on the receiving end of poor advice. I think if we split things into three lines of business. There's investment on the one side, there's life insurance and disability insurance, life cover on the other, and then there is perhaps short-term insurance sort of in the middle. On the investment side, I don't think it's a big deal whatsoever. That's the area that they've talked about absolutely banning commission and replacing it with a fee-driven model where effectively your customer's paying you a fee. At a practical level, it's probably been around for the last 10 or 15 years, so the impact is not particularly heavy. I think advisors are already having discussions with clients about the value that they add and what the cost of that value is. So that one I think we can mostly deal with. As far as long-term insurance is concerned, selling life cover products and disability cover products, that's where the greatest concern is. Because the way that it currently works is it's purely commission. Very few people, if any, who are charging fees on that or charging their customers any type of fee. So they rely on commission coming out of the product, and the commission out of the product is linked to how long that product is going to be in place, and it's normally paid up front, which means you've got this inherent conflict between the benefit for the customer and the benefit for the advisor. And the concerns are at a pure business level, cash flow wise. If all that disappears and I need to charge my client some type of ongoing fee, what will it do to my business? And secondly, will customers actually be prepared to pay for advice on life cover products? And then a similar, perhaps not in my view, not as serious in the short-term world, because commission in the short-term world is an ongoing versus a once-off upfront commission. So less of an issue there. But that's life risk, disability is the biggest concern. I think the first thing they need to do, they need to take stock as to where they want to be in 3 or 5 years' time. And that's, in a sense, a simple question like, do I want to be in this industry? Do I want to be in this profession? If the answer is yes, and I have only come across literally a handful of people who say, I'm going to get out of here. So most of the people stay in the industry for a variety of reasons. If that's your decision, then it's a case of working back and say, okay, what are those things that I need in place? And I think, I'm not a massive believer in silver bullets, but if there is a silver bullet, it's being able to articulate and show the value that you provide to a customer. Because if you can show value and that customer experiences the value, then you can charge for it. Then it becomes the nuts and bolts about how you put that charging structure in place. But if you can't articulate, if you can't literally on an elevator speech explain the value you provide, and the value is not a life policy, the value is the process of advice. CFP is a mechanism to improve and to give you enhanced skills. So it's a person who's more experienced, more qualified, more educated, who can do that. It doesn't mean you can't do it if you haven't built it up by pure experience, but the one gives you a formal set, and at the end of the day it boils down to a common objective of needs to be value for the customer. If it's not, they're going to vote with their feet.